Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is G. Cole, and welcome to Homegrown, where I get to share with you some good music while talking to some great people. Hello world, I hope you're feeling as good as I am. I want to big up all my homegrown listeners out there and welcome all the new listeners. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do, so we can keep you updated when new material is available. We will be posting new episodes bi-weekly. I want to thank everyone who has been listening and sharing this podcast. Please leave us a comment, we'd love to hear from you. Please also go ahead and check out the brand new website, homegrownwithgcole.com, for all things homegrown. This is episode 22.
Take your time, take your time, take your time. No need to hurry. Take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. No need to hurry. No slipping, no sliding, no bumping, no boring. I want to ride into town. If you fall from the race, it's no disgrace. Just pick yourself from off the ground. Take your time, take your time, take your time. No need to hurry. No, no, no. Take it easy, take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. No need to hurry. For the road is rough. And don't you ever get stuck. Take your time, take it easy, take your time. No need to hurry on. Take it easy, take it easy, take it easy. No need to hurry. Take your time, take your time, take your time. No need to worry. No slipping, no sliding, no bumping, no boring. I want to ride into town. If you fall from the race, it's no disgrace. Just pick yourself from off the ground.
And that one is Hopeton Lewis with the song Take It Easy, and it comes from the album Rock Steady Love. If you don't have that one, make sure you go ahead and get that one. Support the legends out there. Today, we are talking immigration. Most of us have family, we have friends, we have someone who's dealing with immigration issues or potential immigration issues. Immigration has always been a tough area to navigate, and now with the current administration not necessarily being the most fond of immigrants and international relations and flexible borders and so forth, it's been, becoming a lot more trickier to navigate these waters. So today what we did is we called in the professional. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome from the law offices of Aileen G. Henry, attorney at law, Miss Aileen Henry. Aileen, welcome to the program. How are you?
Well, thank you. I'm good. You had me jamming here in my office. I love it.
We try to keep it that way. Don't you wish you should play some music in your office every time the clients come in?
Yes.
Or maybe even in
Thanks
court.
for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I've been trying to do it for a while. I know you've been busy, so I am really, really appreciative of your time. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the challenges the immigration process can present are plentiful and they're tricky. However, unlike other avenues of law, meaning criminal cases, real estate, and stuff like that, that varies from state to state, and civil cases, immigration laws are pretty consistent across the country, right?
For the most part, they are. There are some... Because the federal system is divided into circuits, and so some circuits will handle a particular issue differently. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, because immigration is federal law, it's consistent throughout the United States.
Okay. Well, that'll help a lot of people. The main reason I asked is, of course, people are listening from all over the country, and you're based in Wisconsin, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if they're not local to your state, it'll still be okay if they needed to reach out to you for your expertise.
Yes, I represent people from Illinois, Miami, and New York. I've even had a client in Texas. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
All right, a lot of people will be happy to hear that because that's always one major concern. We go over a topic and so forth, but then it's state based, and then I don't want to say null or void. They're now informed and educated, but they got to go contact somebody else. So that's
Right.
kind of
No,
why.
it's different for immigration.
Nice. Now, there's one thing that in conversation I've always heard no, but on occasion I've heard yes. Can you file paperwork for a fiance or someone that's not your legal spouse?
You can for fiance. And there's a visa that's called a fiance visa or a K-1 visa. But in order to apply for the fiance visa, you must be a U.S. citizen. So if you're a green card holder or a permanent resident, you cannot file for a fiance visa. But U.S. citizens can.
Gotcha.
And
Nice.
I can go through the process a little bit briefly if you want me to.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So if the fiance visa is approved, once your fiance gets the United States, you must marry within 90 days. And if you don't marry within 90 days, then the person will have to go back to their home country, or they can be removed from the United States. So if they're here and you hit that 91st day and you're not married, they have to go back or they can be deported.
Gotcha.
But in order to be eligible for the fiance visa in the first place, you have to have met your fiance at least once within the 2 years of applying for the fiance visa. And of course, Gregory, there are cultures where arranged marriage is still practiced.
Yep.
And in cultures like that, it's not possible to meet your fiance prior to the wedding. So there are waivers for that. Or let's say if the U.S. citizen has a very serious medical condition and is unable to travel to meet the fiance, then there's also a waiver for that. Because, this is the age of internet dating. People fall in love online all the time. It's very common. So the answer is yes, there is such a thing as a fiance visa.
Wow. My grandmother said buying a puss in a bag, but it sounds like that. I'll go on, but...
And I'll tell you this, too. If the fiance has a child who's under 21 and is not married, then that child can also get a K-2 visa as a part of the fiance visa. So the fiance is allowed to bring his or her child or children with them as long as you're under 21 and unmarried.
Wow. That I didn't know. And I mean, even just the sounds of that sounds like there's a whole lot of room for lack of a better word, some business arrangements to transpire.
Well, marriage fraud, that is a thing that I know that USCIS is cracking down on. But, you have to, it goes through a regular checking just like any other visa. So, and I think that requirement, too, of having met at least once in the past 2 years is important.
Wow.
And no, they definitely investigate these. So I would warn against anyone thinking of entering into any business arrangements.
Wow. I would warn anyone, even if it's not business, I'd warn somebody from marrying somebody you've only met twice anyway. So.
Very true. Very true.
Wow. Oh, man. Well, how it goes. Normally, you figure more or less, you don't even want to marry when you're in your prime. You want to marry when you're on your your last legs, but let alone marrying somebody. You don't know? Nah. Oh boy. All right, so I opened it up on the new website for people to ask questions. So let's see what's going on here. I had somebody text in something. Can foreign nationals purchase real estate in the U.S. without any residency here or without assistance from somebody living here?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't do
the real estate law.
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know anything about the real estate laws or the residency requirements.
No problem. That's one question that I was having a conversation with somebody else on their podcast, and it kind of came up as far as property and stuff like that. I'd like to think that there's probably some ways around it, but I can always that sounds like a sticky one too, because what if you purchase some property somewhere you can't legally get residency there? You might be forfeiting some property eventually.
Right, and especially, the ID requirements. Yeah, I don't know, but I think it would be tricky.
Sounds like it. Well, we got a whole lot more questions for you when we get back. Thank you again so much. Keep it moving, keep it grooving. It is Homegrown.
Love your love, I say, each and every day. Me say fi love your life and live it right, yeah. Tomorrow's not promised today. Live each moment like it's your last, okay. Don't you live it recklessly. Go for what you wanna, let them tell you can't, no. Tomorrow's not promised today. Love your life, praise the Most High. Come in and know you don't know me right, but the principles in life are simple, better get them right. Like, go to school, learn for real, learn for right. Education is a key to move up in our life. Me know you're tired of the suffering and sacrifice, tired that the catch up sardine and the vulgarize. Sometimes life no nice, you got to think twice. Jah gave you the breath of life. Me say fi love your life and live it right, yeah. Tomorrow's not promised today. Live each moment like it's your last, okay. Don't you live it recklessly. Go for what you wanna, let them tell you can't, no. Tomorrow's not promised today. Love your life, praise the Most High. Every day now you bed or sleep, nothing you have achieved. You call me on the phone complaining you got bills to meet. And I make a lick of weed before you plant a seed. No make a youth them go astray, go do some evil deed. There's nothing wrong with you, there's so many things to do. Like utilize the wealth and health and strength which I give you. And deal with progress, try your best. Love your life and live it right, yeah. Tomorrow's not promised today. Live each moment like it's your last, okay. Don't you live it recklessly. Go for what you wanna, let them tell you can't, no. Tomorrow's not promised today.
And that one is Love Your Life, J. Will and the Raps and Kush Band, and that one comes from the album Love Your Life. Very good record. If you don't have that one, again, make sure you go ahead and pick it up. Aileen, thanks again for jamming out with us. We appreciate you. There are people who came here to the U.S. with their parents when they were young. Now, depending on where you're from, we call them dreamers, if you will.
Yes.
But they're now college age and are somewhat stuck because some of them can't go to college, at least not without paying cash. And now they're being told they have to go back to their homeland. They got to find paperwork there. These are people who've never lived in, let's for argument's sake, say Jamaica. I've never heard of dreamers being referred to them, but to Jamaica, you got to go back there, live there, and so forth. Seems like they'd be covered under the DREAM Act, though. Is there anything that they can do?
Well, right now, the DREAM Act, new applications are not being accepted. But if someone had been granted DACA, they can renew, but there are no new applications that are being accepted.
Gotcha.
So, and it's a really difficult situation because, excuse me, DACA only prevents them. I'm sorry, I just got a thing in my throat.
No problem.
From being deported. It doesn't really give them. It's such a temporary fix. And as we now see, obviously the government at any time can stop the program. So, hopefully if they have a close family member, maybe their parents are able to petition for them, they can go that route. Gotcha. Instead of, obviously, if they're able to reapply for DACA, definitely do that. But it's such a temporary fix.
Right.
We need something more permanent. So if they have a parent who can petition for them, then they should definitely go that route.
Gotcha. And like you mentioned, I know that right now requests for DACA are no longer being accepted, but they said any requests that were accepted before September 5th of 2017 or received by October 5th would be adjudicated.
Right.
The question that most people would have is, there are parents who've had their request for residency approved recently, be it through the help of an employer, a new spouse, or whatever the case may be, and their kids were going to seek the consideration for residency through DACA or through the DREAM Act. Does the fact that their parents are now legal residents, does that help them, or are they still subject to the aforementioned DACA and DREAM Act freezes?
No, if their parents are now residents, then their parents should go ahead and petition for them.
Gotcha.
Yes.
And
quickly.
Real quick.
Run, don't walk.
I gotcha.
Because that's a more permanent solution, because if your parent petitions for you, then you can get a green card through your parent.
Right.
But through DACA as it stands now, you'll never be able to get a green card.
Wow. Okay. Well,
as we see, they can cut it off at any time that they want to, or at least they can try to.
Yeah. Seems that way, depending on what side of the bed wake up on.
Yes.
So, the White House bed's comfortable, but because it can get sticky. That is crazy. Now, a lot of questions I ask tend to be geared toward Caribbean nationals. Of course, I'm Caribbean, so.
Sure.
And that's because there also seems to be a lot of options out there for European nationals and South American nationals and so forth. And even Cuba. Cuba has their wet foot, dry foot. If you're a Haitian, I'm going to think you might get our brook foot, but it's just nothing for us.
Well, Cuba doesn't have the wet foot, dry foot policy anymore.
True.
So that's gone.
Oh,
but it was a good policy, I guess, while it was in place. But when President Obama normalized relations with Cuba, he took that away. I think it ended January 12th of last year.
Right. Mm-hmm. I guess they deemed it no longer necessary based on the fact that the relationship has changed. Now, if they revert certain things, then I wonder if they'll revert the wet foot, dry foot. You never know. Well,
Given the way this administration is proceeding, I don't think they're going to expand on immigration benefits. I think they will likely restrict. So I think any program that has ended likely is going to stay ended and will not come back. In fact, I think programs that we have now, there's been some talk of preventing U.S. citizens from petitioning for their parents to come to the United States and get a green card. So I don't think immigration benefits are going to be expanded. I think they're going to be restricted.
Wow.
So I don't think the wet foot, dry foot policy is going to come back.
So that one's not coming back at all. My bad. Julio, I feel for you. Now, for our neighbors north of the border, when it comes to Canada, there seem to be several different ways for people to gain access and become residents and ultimately citizens there. But for the U.S., other than a family member filing for you or something like that, there seems to be limited amount of ways for Caribbean nationals to obtain U.S. residency outside of the standard spouse filing or mom filing, dad filing. What other options are there?
Well, there are very limited options. There's an employment-based option. You could come in as a refugee or apply for asylum, but those, I can't think of a Caribbean country right now that would probably have any living conditions that would maybe qualify them for their citizens for any refugee status or asylum while in the United States.
Right.
Asylum allows foreign nationals who fear persecution if they return to their home country. And I know of one person, and this is actually for Jamaica, who applied for asylum because he is homosexual.
Right.
And his application was based on the fact that if he went back home, that he would face persecution because of his sexual orientation. So, and I know that case is still pending, so I don't know how that will, play out.
Right.
But yeah, there are some employment means for getting a green card, but those are so difficult and so competitive.
So I've heard. And I mean, a lot of people I've heard talk about the concept of, of an employer filing form or so forth. But it kind of seems to me, I don't know what the cost implications are for companies that do that, but it does seem, at least from my vantage point, what I've heard, that a lot of companies are now shying away from that more than ever. I don't know if there's any commitments that they're obligated to once they do so, but it seems like companies are shying away from that.
They are. And the process now it's so expensive for companies to try to petition for their workers to get green cards.
Wow.
And yeah, it's very expensive and it's very, very competitive.
Wow. And I guess it might even be viewed no differently from the whole concept of exporting jobs overseas, because pretty much if you're bringing in the labor, the skill set from outside to the U.S., I guess it's no different from sending the job overseas. So I can see why.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, outside of the weather, frankly, I don't see any reason why you'd move to Canada. But is the process itself easier for Caribbean nationals living outside of Jamaica? So, for example, if you're a Jamaican and you live in Canada, and by living there, I mean you have legal residence in Canada, in Europe, in the UK. Is it easier for those persons to obtain U.S. residency versus coming straight from a Jamaica, Trinidad, Haiti, wherever?
I don't think so, because you still have to go through the whole family petition. Okay. And the time limits are the same regardless of whether the person is coming from the Caribbean or from Canada. So gotcha. I don't think it's easier, to be honest with you. Gotcha.
All right. Well, it's people talk, and I've always heard people have the mindset that, it's so tough to get into the U.S., but if I could only get into Canada, or if I could only get into Europe, or you know what I mean? Because a lot of times it does seem like the process, and I'm sure they're going to be clamping down on that. They've already started, to mandate that Caribbean nationals, especially Jamaicans, which we thought we'd never see, now have to have a visa to go to the UK. But they're clamping down in their own way. But there was always the mindset and the concept that, if I make it to the UK, if I make it to Canada, if I make it to Europe, then I could get across to the US a little easier. But I guess not.
No, the process is the same.
I gotcha.
It is the same.
Gotcha. All right, well, we still have some more questions for you. Don't go anywhere. Keep it moving.
I'll be here.
It's Homegrown. Down by the River, Morgan Heritage. That one's another beautiful reggae classic. Aileen, thanks again for hanging out with us here on Homegrown with G. Cole. It's a pleasure.
I'm happy to be here.
We're going to have to find a way to get you in the studio live one of these days, so we can...
Yes!
Whole of vibes, get the bar open so, liquor you up so that we can get all kind of information out of you. We'll make it happen one of these days. Days.
Let's do it.
Now, prior to today's show, we've had, people on the website and stuff like that. People engage in it. We opened it up for people to ask some questions. Two questions that came in. One was age. And I do know once you're no longer considered a minor, which I guess, I don't know if it's 18 or 21 now when it comes to filing for residency. But when you're older, 40, and when I say old, I don't mean old, but older than 21. 40,
Okay.
41, 42, 45, whatever. Does
We'll
it make
say 40.
We'll say 40. Leave it on the line. Does it make it any more difficult for you? Does the age factor in any way, shape, or form?
It depends on who is petitioning for you, because obviously you're no longer considered a child under any legal definition. So it definitely depends on who is petitioning for you, especially if you're married.
Mm-hmm.
Then, because there are different categories, there are different visa categories. So if you're over 21 and you're married, then the wait process for you is much longer than somebody who is under 21 and unmarried.
Gotcha. And then there's a concept also of that person who has acquired a green card, but has decided to still reside in Jamaica. Because, a lot of people want to come to the U.S. and they want to get the green card for the purposes that benefits them. They don't necessarily want to leave Jamaica. Not everybody's in a position where they want to flee Jamaica. Things might be good at home, but there are certain things that it's beneficial for them to have their green card to come here. If they have a green card and they're not, and I shouldn't say they can't show residency here, but it's obvious that they're traveling back and forth a lot, and they may not be residing here. Do they run the risk of having that green card taken from them?
Yes, they do. I think, going back and forth and having a residence here and maybe having a residence in Jamaica or wherever your home country is, that's fine. But if you've left the country, for let's say 2 years and you haven't returned, then you can have your green card taken away.
Wow.
It could be considered as being abandoned. So,
but if they're constantly going back and forth, then that might be a little
right.
different.
And you still maintain your residency here, you're still paying taxes here, then that's fine.
Gotcha.
But if you're not, let's say in the military and you've been living overseas, you run the risk of losing your green card.
Gotcha. Now, we do find also that when somebody decides to file for residency for somebody living outside of the U.S., certain documentation is required. And the reason why I'm sure they're required is to show that whomever is petitioning for that person can provide for them. They're not going to come here and be a burden to the state.
Right.
Now, that person who already has a green card, they're going back and forth. So they're not really showing, income here and working and contributing tax-wise and so forth. Does that also work against them in terms of getting that green card renewed?
Okay, so wait, let me make sure I understand your question. So are you talking about somebody who is a green card holder but travels back and forth and they are now petitioning someone to get a green card?
No, just their green card. So that person is a green card holder, but they're not permanently here to where you can pull the tax records and say, okay, this person's working all year round, they're paying taxes.
Okay.
Because of the fact that they're a green card holder, they are going back and forth. They don't have a permanent job here. Are their records going to be looked at as like, okay, this person's not contributing tax-wise and so forth? Does it have any implications at all on them?
Well, when that person goes to renew their green card, there is a question that asks how many days you've been outside of the country. And I think it's 2 years. If you've been outside of the country for 2 years, and I'll have to double check that if it's 18 months or 2 years, then your green card will be considered abandoned. So if you're, not contributing to the tax base here and you're not living here, then you're not a resident here, really.
Right. Just a green card.
So you could lose your green card.
Gotcha. And that goes out. Just want people to hear those things, because a lot of people, the thing about migrants and immigrants, especially, Jamaican folks everybody knows somebody that did it. When it comes to the filing process, I remember I was filing for someone once and it's like, no, my auntie's uncle's boyfriend's wife, sister, cousin's friend did it that way. It was that simple process. Everybody's got their idea of what a simple process is. The question that's coming from that one is, when it comes to those people who feel like, I can do it on my own, and then for some reason the process gets backed up or held up and they decide, okay, you know what, let me now go get an attorney. Does it make things more difficult if they've already started some form of a process outside of that versus just coming to the attorney dead on straight up and saying, you know what, here's what I need to do?
Yeah, I think it's better if they start with the attorney from the beginning. Most attorneys in immigration cases hate coming in the middle, because if they haven't done that initial application and if there's a mistake on that initial application, then everything, I mean, if the foundation is bad, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's best just to have a trained professional, a trained immigration attorney do the process from the beginning, because immigration is so complex.
Right.
And just one mistake. Yeah. Because USCIS takes it very seriously. Mm-hmm. If they think there's any fraud in their applications. And I think you've heard maybe in the news where people have lost their citizenship because of some question that they answered incorrectly in their citizenship application. Now, maybe it was a mistake, maybe it was a willful falsehood, but it doesn't matter. So I think just get an immigration attorney from the beginning so that there are no mistakes and the process will go much more smoothly for you.
Gotcha. I mean, I even know of somebody who made up what they deemed or they said was a genuine mistake in answering some questions. Mm-hmm. And long story short, wound up in jail and almost deported.
Yeah, immigration takes fraud very, very seriously. Very seriously. Wow. And I have to tell you, Gregory, I checked. And for green card holders, you can leave the U.S. and come back as often as you want to. Mm-hmm. But if you stay outside the U.S. for more than a year, then it could be considered that you've abandoned your green card.
Wow.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I mean,
unless, of course, you're in the military. That's that's totally different, because people in the military deploy overseas all the time. That's something that's totally different.
Right. And they'd probably have to prove deployment. It's not just the military doesn't just work as a perk to say, well, I'm outside of the country for a couple of years, but hey, I'm in the military. Let me go. So, we look for a loophole everywhere,
Right.
But it is what it is now. But you're absolutely right, because like I said, more than one persons I've heard of that have, and you know how it goes. You're an attorney. Nobody's ever come to you and said, man, I was wrong. I did wrong. It was my intent to do wrong. But,
right.
They said they didn't, and ended up in a very, very, precarious situation. It was scary for them and for the family. So for all the listening ears out there, you don't want to play that game.
True.
Don't play the game. You're going to lose. All right. Don't go nowhere. Keep it moving. Keep it grooving. It is Homegrown.
Whoa, what a night. What a night. What a night. Oh gosh, what a night. I feel good when you're wrapped up in my arms, dancing to a reggae song. Feel good. I feel good, 'cause your perfume isn't loud, and only I can talk about. Feel good. You feel like velvet rubbing over my skin, and when your hair dances under my chin, I wish we were alone, baby, just the two of us. Yes, every move you make gives me a rush. Oh. Wine some more and show me that love unconditionally. Make believe we're alone, just you and me. Take the problems, leave them behind. Don't let it show. Go, baby, go, baby, go, baby, go, baby, go. I feel good when you're wrapped up in my arms, dancing to a reggae song. Feel good. I feel good, 'cause your perfume isn't loud, that only I can talk about. Feel good. Oh, yeah. Boy, what a vibe. What a vibe. What a night. What a night, yes.
And that one is Beres Hammond. I Feel Good from the album A Moment in Time. Real good record. Make sure you get that one.
I
Aileen,
know. I'm really enjoying the music here, Gregory. Wow.
I'm telling you, that's it. Come on to the studio. We got a whole lot more.
Yes.
We'll get the jerk thing running on the back. You know, we got the jerk chicken going on, the soup, man, the con, the whole nine.
I'm ready.
We'll get it going. Question for you.
Yes.
When it comes to the filing process, a lot of people like to stick to the familiar, which, truth be told, not very many people have an attorney on retainer. But people are concerned, is it, and I don't know if I should say easier or better, for somebody to just wait and start the filing process here? Or is there an issue if they started the process there in Jamaica with an attorney there? Does that complicate things because now you've got to go undo or redo what some other attorney did?
Well, I mean, I think because it has to be somebody from the U.S. who is petitioning, whether it's for a family member or for an employee from the foreign country, let's say Jamaica, to come to the United States. So I think it's much easier if the person who is doing the petition, so the person who's in the United States, has an attorney who they are working with. Does that make sense? Because the petition will always start in the United States. I
got you. Even if you've got some pieces of it to do there, be it your health stuff or whatever proof of,
right. Yeah,
criminal
that comes
records
later.
Or whatever. That's later on.
Yeah, that comes so much later. So I think it's best if the person who's doing the petition in the United States is represented by counsel in the United States. Gotcha.
Now, when it comes to filing for minor children, if the petitioner is a resident and, in another year or so forth will be able to become a citizen, should they wait until they're a citizen? Is it better to wait until they're a citizen, or should they proceed with filing while they're still a resident?
They could file while they're still a resident and then transfer it over. But I mean, if it's within a year, I would just wait until I become a citizen and then make my application for my minor child.
Gotcha.
Because it's so much quicker when you're a citizen.
Gotcha. And does the same apply to spouse if you're gonna petition for your spouse?
Oh yes. If you're about to get your citizenship, definitely get your citizenship first, and then apply for your spouse. Because a spouse is an immediate resident of. A spouse is an immediate family member of a U.S. citizen, so a visa will immediately be ready.
Gotcha.
Whereas with a green card holder, you have to wait years and years for a visa to become ready. So definitely do it when you are a citizen. It's much quicker.
Gotcha. And then as far as the filing process goes also, for people who want to file, for people that are living in the U.S., sadly it happens, people who are living in the U.S. but are not legal residents here, be it they overstayed, be it they would probably fall under the whole Dreamers Act, which I separated kind of because it seems like it doesn't apply to Caribbean nationals. But for those people, would you recommend that they head back home and then have a petition?
Oh, no. If you're here in the United States, are you saying apply before you petition?
Yeah.
Oh, no. No, you stay in the United States, and there's two ways to do it. So let's say somebody came from Jamaica and they came with a visitor's visa and they overstayed. They never went back, right? And then that person marries a U.S. citizen. Because that person came here legally, even though they're now out of status, they can adjust their status and become eventually a green card holder without having to go back to Jamaica because they came here legally.
Gotcha.
So everything is done in one step. And in my area, one-step applications are taking about 6 months from beginning to end to be approved. Now, let's say that same person came I'm not even going to use Jamaica because it's really hard for a Jamaican to come here without some type of documentation. What usually happens with Jamaicans or most Caribbean nationals is that they come legally, and then there's an overstay.
Right.
So I'm going to use a different country. Let's say somebody crosses the border from Mexico without any documentation. So they came illegally, right?
Right.
And then they marry a U.S. citizen. Now, they will have to consular process. That means they will have to go back to their home country to finish their petition. But first they will have to apply here. And eventually they will be given an interview, because you know how everybody has to go to their embassy for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
So they will have to go back to Mexico for the interview. And there's a process now where they will know there's a waiver that they can apply for, and they'll be able to know before they go home whether or not that waiver is going to be approved. So they will have to go back to their home country because they didn't come legally in the first place.
I gotcha.
But no, they shouldn't go back home before the petition is filed.
I gotcha.
That causes a lot more problems.
And by the sounds of things, it sounds like one of the most contributing factors to whether or not you're going to have a difficult process versus a simple process is how you got here.
How you came, yes.
Right.
Yes. If you came legally,
right,
the process will be much easier and much quicker for you to adjust your status in the country.
I got you. So if you came here, and I'm looking at terminologies now, if you came here legally and you overstayed, you're not considered an illegal alien.
Well, it depends on who you talk to. In today's political climate, it totally depends on who you talk to. But
CNN won't call you that, but Fox will.
Right? You said it, not me. So it totally depends on who you speak to. And a lot of people don't understand, that there are different types of undocumented people. There are people who do come legally and they end up in an overstay situation. There are people who do come without documentation and are here without, documents. But we're all humans, right?
Oh, yeah. Things happen.
Yeah.
Things happen. Things do happen. Now, how realistic do you think it is? Because you have a lot of people who, they're residents. Some of them are not, but they're able to travel back and forth. And in the best interest of their child, they may make an effort to have the child born in the U.S.
Did you say born?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people try to do that. How realistic
it happens a lot.
Trust me, a lot is an understatement. So, so many people right now who are U.S. citizens, that's what happened. Somehow, some way, mom made sure she was here and had the baby here. Now, how realistic could it possibly be that they will legally be able to take away or deny citizenship to a child born in the U.S. off a
right
parent
now,
from somewhere
as the
else?
law stands, once anybody who is born here is a United States citizen, as the law stands today.
Gotcha.
Every now and then you'll hear some Republicans say, these anchor babies shouldn't get citizenship, but until that changes, and I can't imagine that'll change.
Right.
Right now, anyone who is born here is a United States citizen.
Nice.
And I know that people want to see that change, but I don't see that happening.
Well, hopefully you're right.
I hope I'm right, too.
Somebody on Fox News said, Aileen had said. So, back to you, Chuck. But hopefully that doesn't change. Hopefully that doesn't change at all.
True.
When it comes to filing for minor children, we established that, wait until you're a citizen is probably the best if your citizenship is around the corner.
It's around the corner, yes.
Right. If it's not, then proceed as you will.
Right.
For those people who, for whatever reason, have been residents for the longest, 10, 15, 20 years, keep renewing that green card instead of filing for the citizenship. What advice would you give to them, especially within this current political climate?
Gregory, Mashim to tell you this. Mashim to tell you this. Okay, I am going to use a personal story. Shim.
Oh my Lord.
Okay, all right, so let's see. So I have been in the United States now for, I think, 23 years. Mm-hmm. And I served honorably in the military here. I went to college. I went to law school. I have a business. I have employees, and I've been
Let's see where we're going here.
So comfortable the past 20 years. It never occurred to me that it was something that I needed to do and take care of. I was just so comfortable. I grew complacent, I think, you know? And even, but now let me tell you, things have changed, okay? Things have changed. So if there are people out there who are like me, who is just living here, comfortable, going about your own, you know, minding your own business, doing your thing, paying your taxes, just being a good resident, and you're thinking, oh, that's okay. No. Run and fill out that citizenship application. Hurry.
Either that or you know something we don't. So
no, I think it's imperative that anybody who is in that position just, you know, if there's nothing that would cause a problem for you regarding, you know, if you don't have something on your record that would make, you know, cause problems for you regarding your citizenship application, then please go out today, tomorrow, do it quickly before this week ends.
Gotcha.
Please.
Gotcha. And I mean, to piggyback off of that, you said if there's no impediments that would stop you from doing it, ultimately meaning criminal records, whatever the case may be. There are people who have come to the U.S., been residents, have been arrested, be it for misdemeanors, felonies, whatever the case may be, more than likely misdemeanor. And there is a healthy fear. Conversation has been had too of them applying for citizenship, because the fear is not just I'm going to be denied. Their concern and their fear pretty much is I'm going to be denied, but not only am I going to be denied of citizenship, I'm going to have my residency stripped away. Does that happen?
Yes, it can happen. In fact, there are a lot of people who will apply for their citizenship, and as a part of the background check, something will pop up that they thought, oh, you know, I'm okay, and they'll end up in deportation and removal proceedings. Wow. So, and I think it may be a little bit misleading, because I think a lot of people who follow immigration know that, you know, if you have an aggravated felony on your record, then that's a permanent bar to naturalization. And that what that means is that you could never be granted citizenship. And so some people will say, well, I've only been convicted of a misdemeanor, not a felony, so I'm okay. Right. But the problem is there are lots of misdemeanors that are considered an aggravated felony in immigration.
Wow.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. And so even for just some misdemeanors can prevent you from applying for your citizenship for, let's say, 5, or if it happened 5 or 3 years prior to your application. It totally depends on what the misdemeanor is. So I think the first thing that somebody needs to do if they are considering applying for their citizenship and they have some conviction on their record is to have an immigration attorney look at their conviction to see if it's a permanent bar to citizenship, or if they're within that, outside of that time frame where they can now apply for citizenship.
Gotcha. Wow.
Yeah.
Host of valuable information here. I'm sure a lot of people are learning a lot here. We got a lot more we're going to get into. Keep it moving, keep it grooving. It is Homegrown.
Hey, yeah. You never know when you might lose someone. So treat them right, you see me? I found myself dreaming in silver and gold, like a scene from a movie that every broken heart knows. We were walking on moonlight, and I pulled you close. A split second and you disappeared, and I was all alone. I woke up in tears with you by my side, a sigh of relief, and I realized realized we're not promised tomorrow. So I'm gonna love you like I'm gonna lose you, and I'm gonna hold you like we're saying goodbye. Wherever we're standing, I won't take you for granted, 'cause we never know when we will run out of time. So I'm gonna love you like I'm gonna lose you. Love you like I'm gonna lose you, girl. In the blink of an eye, just a whisper of smoke, you could lose everything. The truth is we'll never know. So I'll kiss you longer, baby, every chance that I get. I'll make the most of each minute in love without regrets. Let's take our time to say what we want, use what we have before it's all gone, all gone. 'Cause no, we're not promised tomorrow. So I'm gonna love you like I'm gonna lose you, and I'm gonna hold you like we're saying goodbye. Wherever we're standing, I won't take you for granted.
And that one is Like I'm Gonna Lose You. That one is a single from Quarrick. One of my favorites right now. Make sure you go check that out. He should be in South Florida pretty soon, doing some shows also. So you'll definitely enjoy that. Hopefully by the time he comes into town, you'll be here. And we'll get to go rock out to some music.
Yes.
We'll get it done, though. I'm confident we will.
We will.
We'll get it done. When it comes to a petitioner, I've had a scenario or a question come up where someone's petitioning for a residency for a family member, be it a child, a minor, whatever the case may be. I think it was a minor. The petitioner died. Mm-hmm. So the other parent or maybe step parent, I'm not sure, is here. Still a part of the family, still have that family relationship, but the petitioner is deceased. Does the petition die also with them?
No. There can be a substitute petitioner.
Okay.
So no, the petition thankfully does not die with the death of the petitioner.
Good. Nice. And then for those people who've been in the U.S., whether it be because the stigma of deportation, people don't realize that it's almost like a sex offender, to where the crime itself could be just being in a relationship with somebody who legally by 1 year is of not old enough or 1 year too old or whatever the case may be. You don't get the opportunity to go and explain yourself. You're a sex offender.
Right.
And crimes like those. When it comes to previously deported residents, do we ever have scenarios where previously deported residents can be re-granted residency? Or is it you're out?
No, there's a 10-year bar where people will have to stay outside of the United States for 10 years, and then after 10 years they can reapply, and they can reapply for waivers for whatever it is that caused them to have to leave the country in the first place.
Gotcha. It's safe to say that depending on what the circumstance was under which you were deported, you might as well stay home.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hope that answers some questions out there. And also, as far as filing for people outside of the country goes also, there's a lot of scenarios, like you said, immigration fraud that goes on right now. The other thing, as far as you do also have identity fraud. So sometimes you're coming up under somebody else's info or some form of crime or whatever linked to somebody that they're really not guilty of. That's a whole different can of worms. If I'm, hopefully I'm not getting confused here, but you have somebody who is filing the petition and they fall victim to identity theft in the interim, in the process of doing that.
Okay. The person who's doing the petition. Right.
Okay. Then falls victim to it because, you know, you're they do judge based on your background as to whether they're going to allow you to file for somebody. I remember when I was younger and doing the filing for a family member, you had to provide so many documentations, and it was the reason why they asked for the documentation was to show that you were going to be able to provide for this person. You're not going to bring them in to be a burden on the state.
Right.
So if your social or whatever the case may be now gets caught up in some other stuff, then that also could bar and create an issue in you petitioning for somebody else.
Well, it's called an affidavit of support.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes very late in the process. So after, you've done the visa application, then you have to show that you're able to support the person who you are bringing into the country so that that person does not have to rely on any public benefits. So what they will look at is they'll look at your income for the last 3 years because there's an income requirement that you have to meet.
Right.
And so they'll look at your W-2s, your tax returns. And if the person who is petitioning for the person to come to the United States doesn't meet that income threshold, then they can have a cosigner. So they can bring someone else in who has the income that qualifies as a cosigner on the affidavit of support. But when it comes to that, what they'll look at your tax returns to make sure that you meet the income threshold. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, if that be the case and they can have a cosigner, it's like a student loan or a car loan, doesn't that open the door for a lot more fraud?
No, I don't think so when it comes to the affidavit of support because they will look at your assets. They'll look at your income to make sure, because all they're looking at is to make sure that the money is there, that you're making enough, or the cosigner is making enough or has enough assets.
I got
so
you.
that, the immigrant will be supported in case they're unable to support themselves.
Gotcha. Now, let's veer left a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a different story for persons with felonies, but what advice can you give to green card holders? We've gone on this road again, but it's one of the questions that came up more than once. That's been arrested for a misdemeanor in terms of them applying for their citizenship. So
in terms of them applying for it, you broke off.
For their citizenship. So they're green card holders with a misdemeanor on the record.
Right.
Should they be as worried and scared?
It depends on what the misdemeanor is, and it depends on when they were convicted of the misdemeanor. And I have to tell you, USCIS is not only just looking at convictions. I mean, right now they're looking at just being charged.
Wow.
Somebody is charged and it gets dismissed. You still have to disclose those on the application, and they look into those. But if you've ever been charged,
right,
arrested, and if you have been convicted of a misdemeanor or any felony, then definitely have an immigration attorney look at it to see if it's an aggravated felony, if it's a crime involving moral turpitude.
Right.
So definitely don't make that judgment call by yourself unless you yourself are an immigration attorney. Definitely have someone look at it.
Right. Gotcha. And I've seen in conversation with people, because we're in South Florida, which ultimately means you're talking to people from all over the country, all over the world. Very few people from South Florida are from South Florida. So they bring a host of information from near and far, which kind of gives the impression that legally, stuff vacillates a lot. Is it really by the book, straight down the road, this is how it is, the law is the law, this is how it's interpreted? Or based on where you are, things may differ if you're going to petition for citizenship?
Okay, I don't think I understand your question. So ask me one more time. Are you saying, is it based on, just looking at the law?
Right.
To say, is it by the book, do they meet these criteria? Or is it a person-by-person determination? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, is it person by person? And not only person by person, but state by state. Are some states more lax? Are some counties more lax when it comes to certain things? In other words, it's like gun laws, for example. Getting caught with a gun in one place and getting caught with a gun in another place, the outcome's a little different. Right. So is it the same thing when it comes to that?
Well, I think for a lot of it, it's a person by person basis, because let's say a spouse has petitioned for, we spoke earlier about somebody who came in here on a visitor's visa and overstayed and then got married. Right. So let's say that spouse has now petitioned for his wife who overstayed on the visa. And they will eventually have to have an interview before an immigration officer.
Right.
And that immigration officer will make a decision whether or not they've met the requirements to adjust status in the United States. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of the decisions are based on an immigration officer's decision, and a lot of it is based strictly on the law.
Gotcha.
So, and that's, I think, too, where when I spoke earlier about there being different circuits in the United States, because let's say somebody applies for their citizenship and they have a conviction on their record, let's say for, let me throw something out. Let's say some type of theft.
Mm-hmm.
And when they first make their application, and immigration rejects it, saying, no, this crime bars you from naturalization, and they're placed in removal proceedings. Then at that time, there can be an appeal, and you can go before the judge, and depending on what circuit you're in, they'll look at the different laws. And so the government will have their interpretation of the law, and the petitioner's attorney will have their interpretation of the law, and then the immigration judge will decide.
Gotcha. It comes up a lot because I remember when I was in the travel industry, I was always asked about going in and out of the country, what I need to do, what I need to have, and I've said to people on numerous occasions, because it is 100% true, that it really is based on a custom officer. You go to you bring the same thing, the same exact thing, do the same thing 2 different times, get 2 different guys, have 2 different experiences. Is that the case when it comes to these immigration officials that they're going to go to meet with? Is it a scenario where it's who you get?
Yes, I definitely think so. I definitely think it depends on the person who is doing the interview and making the decision.
Gotcha.
Because I remember I had one particular case, and I do have permission to talk about this a little bit from my client. And the petitioner, the person who had applied for his spouse, was in prison. Ooh. And before he went to prison, they had only been together for such a short period of time.
Right. And
so he was not obviously able to attend the immigration interview because he was in prison. I just prepared my clients. I'm like, there's just no way.
Right.
No way this is going to be approved. And we met with a very nice immigration officer, and she approved it. And I'm pretty sure if we had gotten some other immigration officer, it probably wouldn't have been approved. So I think a lot depends on the person who you are sitting in front of for the interview.
Human factor comes in at some point.
Yeah.
Well, wow, man, that was a lot. Well, thank you so much. We got a host of I'm looking at this thing here, and I can't believe we've passed an hour. Time flies so fast.
It took me a while to get warmed up. I was so nervous.
That's all right. We could go another hour, but I'm going to save that for another topic. So gives us 2. But hold on, don't go anywhere. Keep it moving, keep it grooving. It is Homegrown.
Oh, baby, something I have to tell you. Tell you, I have to give it to you. You're number one, I think you should know it. No one fits your shoe, and I'm so proud to tell you, you're number one, you have earned it. I met lots and lots of pretty girls in my traveling all around the world. No one comes close to you. And if you should count from 1 to 10, you'd find them at the very end. And it's the God's truth I'm telling you. That's why you are my lady. I'm crazy about you, baby. And I'll never, 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 never stop loving you. I'll never stop loving you. Oh, baby.
And that one is I Will Never Stop Loving You, Charles Organeer Cameron. Have you ever seen the movie Love Jones, Aileen?
Yes, that's one of my favorites.
I love that movie, man. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. That you remember the scene in Chicago when they rode on the bike and they went to the club, the Wild Hair, they were dancing.
Yes.
The band was on stage. That's that guy. The song you just heard, that's him, and that was the song. So from ever since I saw that movie way back in the 90s, I love the song, and I'm finally getting a chance to talk to him. We're gonna have him on the podcast. So I'm so looking forward to that.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
I do get my fan moments. I'm going to fan out on that one, but I did. Ever since I heard it, I just loved it. And I said, yeah, I'm going to talk to him. And the guy that did the song, I played it at the beginning of the episode. It's in the Corona commercial. Take it easy.
Yes.
So I got to talk to both of them, and I'm so looking forward to it. But I had a blast talking to you. So I'm
Thank you.
definitely going to say this is part one. We'll come again together for part two.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And on behalf, Aileen, on behalf of the Homegrown family out there and myself, I want to thank you so much for joining us and being so generous with your time.
My pleasure.
Thanks again. And I know there's so many questions the masses may have for you. If they need to reach out to you for legal services, for representation, how can they get a hold of you?
Sure. They can go to my website. It's henry.law.
Mm-hmm.
Or they can call my office, 262-654-5000.
Okay.
Or they can send me an email. It's Aileen, Aileen, @henry.law.
All right. I'm gonna put all that information in the show notes so that they can find it there. But I definitely know, there's a lot of valuable information, a lot of jewels that we drop that will benefit so much. And of course, people will want to reach out. So I want to definitely put that up and they can reach out to you. She's real. A lot of times, because like I told Jamie, people are not only scared of the law, they're kind of scared of attorneys too. So I don't know why, but it seems that way.
Must be our horns.
I don't know, but luckily for me, I've just talked to the sweetest attorneys, so I'm good. I'm good, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everything. We're gonna again do part two on another topic, but again, on behalf of my listeners, my team, and I, thank you so much.
Have a good day, Gregory.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Keep it moving, keep it grooving. It's Homegrown.
Take you, and now I'm so mad, but that's the way to love. That's how I feel in my heart. I've got to say, oh, how I suffer, oh, how I tried. I gave up my pride just to be by her side, and whosoever tried take the love that's mine. I never say no other word, no other word.
And there you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in. It has indeed been a pleasure. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast Homegrown with G. Cole, available now on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also, please check out the website Homegrown with G. Cole for all things homegrown. Remember, be safe, be kind, and be good to each other. My name is G. Cole, and this is Homegrown.
Nakikinig sa música Homegrown with G. Cole.
Estás escuchando Homegrown con G. Cole.
您现在正在收听的是 Homegrown with G. Cole.
You're listening to Homegrown with G. Cole.
Remember, all the music played here on Homegrown with G. Cole is available on iTunes, Spotify, and all your digital retailers. Please support the artists.